All right. So once again, what I want to talk about is just stigmas in society, in regards to, mental health. It's October, so I know Pacer's doing something in regards to bullying, suicide prevention, things like that. That's one of the nonprofit organizations that I actually appreciate. And so I told you in another video, or a previous video, or the name of this channel is basically the No Shade Initiative. So what I do is talk about bullying, talk about prevention, things like that, awareness, just things that are going on in society. Also, you will, hear just random thoughts about, how I feel about society, just, just my thoughts in general. Sometimes they'll reflect what's going on in the world right now. Sometimes it's just like my personal, take on this world that we live in. And so it was a few years ago in regards to mental health. We know that May is mental health month, but honestly, that is a all year round thing. When you're talking about your mental health, when you're talking about your physical health, emotional health, spiritual health, that is an ongoing thing. And so I wrote an open letter to social media and some of the radio stations and addressed it to radio personalities in North Carolina. And it was not read, but that's okay, because what I did notice was that more and more health professionals started to come on these radio stations and talk and give their advice or what have you. And this was like a year ago, before Corona and everything. Now mental health, mental awareness, everything in regards to clinical help, counseling is like on the up and up, is number one, because we need it so much. And I think about back in the day when people used to kind of shit on social work, counseling, all of that stuff. Now, lo and behold, we need it now more than I think we've ever done in this type of atmosphere that we're in. And so, with that being said, please excuse me, I'm not doing another take. So, with that being said, I wanted to read this open letter to you and just everybody out there. I've been getting some positive feedback. Of course, there's trolls. There's always trolls, but I've been getting a lot of positive feedback in regards to my videos and my content, whether I'm professional or you got that last video, like Imagine a World. That was where I kind of spit my soul through the wire. I wanted y'all to get a sense of how I really talk. That's how I really talk, ladies and gentlemen. That's how I really talk. And so I wanted to share that with you because oftentimes we meet people's representatives and what have you. Now, by no means am I, I don't think necessarily that I'm not being authentic, but for the sake of my profession and what I did, I felt that it was necessary to clear, fix some things up, spruce some words up, not curse, stuff like that. And sometimes that's not authentic. You just got to connect with people and let them know what it really is. And so I don't necessarily think that should be a reflection on my professional abilities, what I can bring to the table, anything like that. It's just me and you talking, things like that. So, me talking and you listening. But otherwise, so I'm going to get into it and read this open letter. And so, in regards to mental health. So oftentimes we dismiss what we cannot fathom or do not experience firsthand. And that comes from myself. So it's an open letter to radio stations and social media regarding mental health, Mental Health Awareness Month. So I wrote this May of last year. So here we go. So to the radio personalities and social media icons, you have a platform and a responsibility to continue to bring up topics to spark deep thought, meaningful conversation, and positive action. I will start off by disclosing that your efforts are applauded and have not gone unnoticed thus far. We are all responsible to educate and uplift ourselves as well as one another, especially in purposely targeted communities where help does not appear to be as abundant. As a mental health professional working in North Carolina, I have witnessed firsthand from a personal as well as a professional standpoint of why mental health or lack thereof continues to be a concern. My humble opinion is that there are still covert issues that are not being addressed accurately, and that layer must be uncovered. As a societal unit, many of us lack simple compassion, empathy, and understanding. No one has to necessarily agree with unhealthy means of coping or behaving to know that concerns should still be addressed with care and precision. I cannot tell you how many times I've witnessed professionals mock and humiliate clients. And I'm going off on a tangent. I don't like to say clients, I like to say survivors, but for the sake of the letter, that's what I use. But I'll use clients and survivors interchangeably. I cannot tell you how many times I've witnessed professionals mock and humiliate survivors for their symptoms in the same facilities whose mission statements vow to uphold the integrity and dignity of the survivors served. As a result, shame and humiliation is still experienced and felt by survivors, resulting in many continuing in behaviors that bring comfort to them and is usually unhealthy. I am not exempt, as I will also hold myself accountable on days that I felt burnt out. The road to recovery and healing is a shared experience between the survivor and the clinician, and it's often frustrating. However, as a professional, I'm responsible for the intent behind my interventions and my rapport and relationship building with these survivors. Just as many believe in praying, meditating, etc., with an expectation for growth and change, the same holds true in regards to intervention and support for those in need. This means we all have a responsibility in regards to our tone, our body language, our demeanor, and our intent when assisting those with mental health illnesses, substance abuse concerns, trauma, domestic violence, and persons with specifically identified personality types. It's a whole range of people we need to get at. Society has told these individuals in more ways than one that they are not normal or accepted. So you add exclusion and over-exaggeration in regards to their concerns. And for many, it's the equivalent of their being traumatized all over again, because of the thoughts and the feelings associated with the memory of the past hurt and humiliation. So basically, the past trauma gets reopened or resurfaced based off of a new trauma that's experienced. So, though intent may be to get the individual to man up or woman up, snap out of it, the opposite effect occurs. Now, once again, disclaimer, there's been plenty of times that I have done this as well. However, after a while, once you become conscious and cognizant, this is a social work, counseling, teaching is an ongoing learning experience. So once you learn new things, new ways, go to seminars, go look on YouTube for professionals who actually know how to be empathetic and emotionally intelligent, then there's no longer an excuse for how you treat people as a result of you being burnt out. You have to, look past certain things. So those experiencing mental, emotional health concerns have to sit back, keep up, and cope while people jokingly dismiss them or their views and opinions as crazy or ungodly. So respectfully, I'll save the topic of religious arrogance for another time. Oh, that's another video. For those who are mentally strong and can generally manage their day-to-day lives, one of the worst things that can be done, especially to a person seeking help and support, is to purposely see how much they can handle by mistreating or shading them. They are not you. So while one person can take the brunt of everything, the next person in a similar circumstance may not be able to. So we cannot use the same type of interventions for different people. For instance, if someone is fresh out of surgery with their wound still tender and patched up, what in God's name would compel another individual to rip off the bandage and intentionally poke to see if the surgery was a success? Where do they do that? So in actuality, it speaks volumes in regards to that person's mental and emotional health. Everyone has different levels of what they can take in terms of pain, stress, what have you. Many healthcare professionals, including myself, take pride in the work that is achieved by survivors in controlled environment settings, like inpatient, outpatient, care facilities, care agencies, things like that. But once they are out, the true test for maintaining mental health is in the real world, where they are faced by persons willing to challenge their success and abilities, their newfound success and abilities. Please understand, hear me out. I'm not implying that we all go out with extreme displays of politically correctness and tripping over ourselves not to offend others. Comedy and entertainment are some of the most influential outlets for health management in general. But at some point, we've got to stop laughing and have a serious, proactive discussion in regards to the current state of humanity. Because at this point, it supersedes mental health. We do have a responsibility to treat mental and emotional health on an individual basis. So how can we do this? By including and validating people for their individual experiences, by accepting differences as alternatives as opposed to hindrances or disabilities. Stop shaming and shading as if because it drives human disconnection as opposed to connection. So people we're not going to trust each other. So when I think about mental health and you have somebody who, may have gotten a label or a diagnosis, I think what we need to do is just take a look and consider them as a person first, surviving or coping with something, an illness, a sickness, a disability, what have you. It can't be the label first and then the person. So for instance, even if you did have somebody who got a diagnosis of bipolar, schizophrenia, schizoaffective, what have you, interestingly enough, you have that person and then you have a quote unquote, which I hate, normal, regular person. I can't stand that term. So if a person that has the diagnosis, has a bad day or stuff just happens, like, it's just a Murphy's Law day, automatically that person they get stigmatized, they get characterized based off of the symptoms or based off of the label that they have. So if I'm irritable, if I'm tired, if I'm hungry, automatic, you're crazy, you're bipolar, da 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 da. If the normal person has a mood swing, has a change in their thought process or their mind in mid-sentence, if they're crying hysterically, it gets labeled as exhaustion. They just have a bad day, or it is like a Murphy's Law day. It is what it is.